I'd like to start the meeting, if everyone can stand for the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any distractions from the consent agenda? Motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, planning commission report.
The planning commission did not meet the last meeting, so there is no report for this evening.
Okay, public open forum. Anyone here for public open forum?
Yeah, Tim Melchior.
Come on up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Hey, Bill. My name's Tim Melchior. I live at 8306 177th Lane Northeast. You guys may have recognized my name from the emails that I've sent over the last 4 months in relation to the bituminous roadways application. And since you have failed in your process, we are filing suit. You are sued.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a pleasant day.
Okay. Good luck with that.
I guess that packet goes over here.
Yeah. Anyone else call over forum? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the Third Sand Preserve mining request, which I will exempt myself from. So, Bill, you want to take that one?
Me?
Yeah.
Why are you handing it over to me for?
Jeff's not here, you're next, right? Is that right?
You're here.
Yeah, well, I guess recuse myself from this one.
Why is that?
Because I bought some of the sand.
Oh. Well, we should have told this before you threw it.
Sorry.
Well, I think that what they're looking to do is extend their mining permit. We didn't quite get everything done, so.
Public hearing for 2 months.
What's that?
You want to?
Oh.
Brett,
Brent Jensen, North Pine Aggregate.
In your agenda packet, you have a letter from North Pine Aggregate. In that letter, it asks for an extension of their hauling permit. Their hauling permit expires on March 30th of this year, and they're asking to extend that permit. What I've just handed out to you is the minutes of the meeting where it was approved and the 15 conditions that were set. And at that time, the activities were to be completed by March 31st. The last page is the haul road that they created and the pond that they did not finish hauling, or the pond that they were excavating that they are now doing the hauling from. And at this time, maybe you can explain to them like where you're at this point.
We're probably half to 2/3 done with the pond. We had a couple projects last fall that we thought were gonna take the material that fell through, so we probably got, guessing 20 to 30,000 yards left to truck out of there.
you need 4 months for that?
Hopefully not, but we've got a couple projects right away this spring that we're fairly confident are gonna go, that should take care of it. But I guess we wanted to ask for plenty of time in case something fell through, so.
So no more extensions that'll get her done?
No,
Sooner the better, in my opinion.
mine too.
Yeah.
So do the people that moved in there know that that's gonna continue for a little bit?
I've talked to the developer, and yes, he spoke with or was going to speak with the homeowners, and said that he's been making them aware as the sale's been happening that the pond is in progress, so.
Okay.
If this, if we do not get it done in scheduled time, we can move it and stockpile someplace else, or just regrade it.
I think we would have to stockpile and move it somewhere else, but I'm fairly confident we can get it done, so.
Okay.
I would suggest you make that a requirement that it's not done in under 20 days and stockpiled somewhere else so they're done. I would like to see the stockpiling done within that 120 days, well, not an extension beyond to do the stockpiling of wood.
Okay.
So motion.
So on page 8 of the August 9th minutes are the 15 conditions that we set. Number 15 was the must complete date. So Bill, would they just amend that date?
Yes, the date would be amended, subject to the engineer's suggestion that any stockpiling after that date will be done somewhere else off-site,
Okay.
meaning out of city, I assume.
So what's the date we're extending this one?
It sounds like 120 days from that date, March 31. What's your request?
I guess our request would be 120 days from when road restrictions are lifted, so I would say 120 days from now would be fine.
The end of August.
Yes. Yep.
So August 31st.
It should be July 1.
Well, aren't road restrictions into May?
Yeah, he was talking about extending it when the road restrictions go out.
Oh, the last thing that is from now.
We'd be fine at the end of August.
Okay, so July 31 then.
Yeah, that would be fine. Yep.
You clear?
My understanding is that the Anoka County permit is expired in December, so you will renew all permits that are required.
Yep. Do we need an Anoka County permit? We're not accessing. That was just for the temporary access onto Broadway, I believe, wasn't it? We can certainly
I know
renew it
that-
if we need one, but we're accessing off of City Street now, so,
Okay. I'm not sure what their requirements are for hauling.
okay, I'll check. But if we need one, we'll certainly renew it.
Okay.
And did your dewatering permit have a time frame too?
I'm not sure, I'll check on that, but,
So if I could just read the condition then, 15 is amended. Any sand mining activities must be completed by July 31, 2018. Any stockpiling after that date will be off-site.
and I can't speak for the owner, the developer, but he was talking about possibly stockpiling some sand on site he's been using quite a bit for each home he builds out there, so that would be the only thing we wouldn't have any control of if he wants to pile some there.
That wouldn't be sand mining activities, but would have to be clearly separate from any
Yep.
sand mining activities. It'd have to be related to,
To the development,
right.
okay,
So if there are huge piles that are not related to development, it wouldn't qualify.
okay, could possibly end up with a pile out there, I guess,
It's good to know.
yeah.
Well, I think that's normal in development anyways, till we're done, so.
Yep. Any normal development activities would be outside of this program.
Okay,
So we need a motion approved?
Yes, motion with the amendment.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment that Bill stated.
I'll second it.
Call for a vote.
Aye.
Yes, Steve. Okay, thanks, Bill.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
thank you.
Thanks, Fred. All right, so, information on Oak County Action Program, Elizabeth,
I'm sorry?
next up.
Oh, next one.
Yep.
That Anoka County is just for information. We received a letter outlining all of the activities they proposed and then who they served over the past year. So there's no action item, just information. They have a fair amount of services, and Jesse will make some links on social media and do some things. I think they have some good programs for the community.
Okay, and then the Rice Creek Watershed District letter, page 86-7.
We received a letter from Rice Creek indicating the legislative initiative that they are supporting. So they sent a letter to us, putting us on notice which bills they are supporting. And so the front of the letter is indicating the reasons why they're supporting it in the back of the letter indicates what bills they're supporting. And at this time, I didn't know if you wanted to support that somehow, if you didn't want to do anything, or what the status of the direction for that is.
Just seeing the letter now, I think we got to read it, think about it. Bring it up in 2 weeks, fine?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll take a look at that. Okay, and then next up we have the Tumulus roadway Columbus final plat question. 28.
In your materials, you have a letter from Bituminous Roadways, and you also have a diagram. In that, this is the final plat, and when we approve preliminary plat, the next step is to do a title review, and when you do a title review, a title commitment is submitted to the city. When they received the title commitment, they realized that there were some things in the title that they were not aware of. One of them is, if you look at this yellow area, this area is not an easement where you own the underlying property. MnDOT actually owns it, so it's an actual lot within a lot. And so this yellow area is owned in fee by MnDOT. So this is the area of the plat, and they were just gonna do one new lot, so it's lot one. But when it's severed by another lot, you need to create a new lot. And so this will change from the preliminary plat, so there's an outlot here, it's all wetland, and so there's a deviation from the preliminary plat. So what they're asking is whether or not the council feels that this is a minor issue, and for them to be able to move on and file final plat without amending preliminary, or do you want them to amend the preliminary plat to include this, which means we will start the process over.
I really don't see us arguing over some abandoned swamp, within a swamp. I mean, it seems like a technicality, minor technicality.
This is 100% wetland, so
Right.
this basically it would be, they've depicted it as outlot A, and
Yeah.
outlot B is another easement.
I drove by it after we discussed it, and there is like a drainage ditch there, I think, a long one.
But this is the MnDOT drainage ditch, yes.
Yeah. Both of them, yeah. So, I don't see any reason to start over.
Mr. Mayor, if that's the case, then we should have a motion to waive the preliminary plat application so that they can go directly to final plat.
Okay, so we'll make a motion to that effect.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, okay, resolution, what's this one all about, Elizabeth?
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Schroeder came in last November, and they paid off their special assessment. This particular receipt was missed as a payoff and was certified to taxes for this year. So we would like to correct it, and the only way that Anoka County will accept a correction is by resolution. So this resolution is stating that they paid their special assessment in full, and to please take it off the tax rolls for 2018.
Okay. All those numbers are right? Pins and everything, all good? Okay, so we want to make a motion to approve, deny this resolution.
Make a motion to approve it. Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, engineer's report.
Quick update on facade 54 county project for next year. We had a monthly update meeting last week with the county, and I apologize, I don't have the latest map, I can get a copy from the county, but just a quick update. Not a whole lot has changed since the last time we met. They are still planning on doing construction on both County 54 and Lake Drive, that's all 2019 construction. There's not going to be any construction this year. What these plans don't show is the roundabout in this location. So the purple is actually part of the design build project. That's part of the MnDOT 35 and 97 project. So the county's is 54 realignment, the connection to the existing roadway, and the roundabout up on Lake. One of the things that changed a little bit was the ponding. They're still the same locations. There's a larger pond up at this location, which to our knowledge has been acquired now, the easement for that. The pond in the southwest quadrant here, they've upsized it, made it a little bigger, which should help drainage in the area, including some of the city property in the future. We're going to work with them to make sure we can have drainage and elevation work so we can get drainage across there. And the pond down closer to the south end also is a little bit larger. Something unique about the existing highway is that the west ditch flows north and the east ditch flows south. So this pond is actually capturing drainage from these other properties on the west side of West Erie Drive. So that's capturing that. And if that property should become something different in the future, develop, then we have to get that drainage up to the existing pond and maybe make that pond a little bit larger. So they've accommodated for all the ponding, even done a little oversizing for future. That was really the main updates from the last time. Again, I hope to get some update on the design build project by the next meeting or the following one, because I know they're, being a design build project, the schedule's not set in stone, and they're changing things about what piece is going to be done later this year and in 2019. So you'll definitely see construction happening on the north side of the bridge this year, but they may even start some work in this location or on the east side later this year, and it might not all be in 19. So if there's any questions, schedule it.
How much of the highlands are they taking for that easement along the road from the T up?
In this location?
No. In here. So this is all high along there?
A lot of it's wet, there's a combination of both.
Would you have any ideas on the square footage on the up and low end?
I don't know if we can get that from the county because they'll be figuring that out when they do the easements or right away.
Yeah, I don't think they got that far yet.
This map doesn't show the wetland boundaries either, so. There was some high ground down here, and then that wetland boundary kind of jogs around. A lot of this is in wetland area through the middle. But I don't have no.
My concern is that it's rather have it move itself to the wetland than burn up our highland.
Yeah, I know I believe they're kind of constricted with geometrics and keeping these curve sizes what they are. They're already going down 40 miles per hour from their normal 50 mile per hour standard.
Okay.
To fit that in there.
All right, any other questions? All right.
The second item I had on my agenda tonight was for a feasibility report that we have conducted to extend sewer and water improvements down to the freeway triangle, basically down to the Tumulus roadway site. And in your packet there, you should have a copy of the report. We came up with 3 different options, and so basically the 3 different options would locate a sanitary sewer lift station in 3 different locations potentially. And the cost is very similar to all 3 options. map of that, Elizabeth? Or I can do a hard copy.
Each council member has a
Okay.
phone, yeah.
So basically, in a nutshell, we provide some cost estimates. They range between $820,000 and $850,000 for a complete project for construction, design, right-of-way or easement acquisition. There would be a little bit required to locate a lift station. You can just go to one of the maps if you want to. Sideways. So what you're looking at there is the West Freeway Drive crossing over I-35W. And today, the sanitary sewer and water main end right about this location, coming from the north. We'll extend the proposal is to extend the water main down the east side, and in the future, we reserve an easement to extend the trunk water main for the city loop. And sanitary sewer, in this drawing, one of the three options would come down the west side with a lift station, because right now, elevation-wise, you cannot get everything gravity to come up to the existing sewer. Without looking at each one of the three drawings, the three different scenarios are a lift station in this corner, a lift station on the north side of 35W, or the third option would be a lift station actually between those roadways property or close to that easement that you were just looking at before. There's a little land potential area there. This option is more challenging to have both sewer and water on the east side because there's just the geometrics and the topography. There's not a lot of right-of-way, and there's, I think, 3 different private utilities that run along the east side through here. So use this option here, number 3, just for the sake of looking at costs and what that would work out to be, because there's 2 properties that would be benefiting by these improvements, one on each side of West Freeway Drive, south of 35W. So in our proposal, we show what the total cost is, and then you divide that by the total square footage of benefiting property that's also developable, taking out wetlands. The total cost for these improvements would come up to be in the neighborhood of 46 cents a square foot for those properties.
Is there a recommendation for you guys on which one would be the better system to go with?
We're recommending this one that you're looking at right here with both utilities on the east side and the lift station. Hopefully we can work with the developer to locate that, but we would also, as we get into the design, or once what we're asking for tonight is to set a public hearing a month, 2 meetings from now, and to go over this, and then if it goes forward and authorize plans at that time. And in between that time, we would get a little bit more detail about where the best location would be.
So Dennis, the cost is pretty much the same?
Yeah, it's, like I said, the lowest, one scenario goes down to about 820,000, the other one's about 833. 840 is the highest. So they range between 820 and 840. There's been not a lot of difference. Looking at about the same amount of length of pipe in each one, and about the same amount of easement we do.
Dennis, with the knowledge of the MnDOT land across here, does that change any of this?
Yeah, I need to look at that a little closer. It looks like there's a little bit, MnDOT doesn't own that entire easement, according to that drawing. It looks like there's still 20 or 30 feet in there.
Mm-hmm.
And when we had talked to Anoka County, City Watershed District, they were okay with a water line going in there as long as it physically didn't impact the ditch. There's quite a bit of extra space in there.
It's a lot deeper than the ditch, isn't
Yeah, but the ditch is on the freeway side of that easement, so there's probably 30 or 40 feet of ground that is theoretically possible to put a line in there.
it? And accessibility, how would you get to service and manage that pipe?
As part of Bituminous Roadways plat, that whole area north of basically where we're showing the future 12-inch, that's all drainage and utility easement. So we would have to have, and if the lift station were over there, they'd have to have daily access through, probably the north to Mr. O'Reilly's driveway, through the south.
Okay.
No matter where the lift station is, we're gonna need, access.
Dennis, do you think it would be something that maybe we could arrange that we can use the current current driveway to have our own access? To have a driveway easement? 'Cause
Yeah.
This driveway already exists, and if the lift station was there, then we wouldn't have to go through their own property, we'd have our own
I
access.
believe that existing driveway is about where Victor Mr. O'Reilly's has their right out only driveway on their site plan.
Oh, okay.
So, even though it's right out only, that's, I'm thinking, city vehicles could go in and out of that if needed. Otherwise, we'd use the south, if this was the alternative, we'd use the south driveway to stay along the edge. Have not spoken to the developer.
Okay, I don't think anyone here has a preference, do we?
No. One quick question, that lift station there would be similar to the other ones we have in Columbus?
Correct.
Because right now they're in the process of switching them over to an automatic generator system. I want to make sure maybe that pricing includes that in that, so we're not doing that down the road.
Yeah, we'll work with Public Works for any, upgrades or, if we're looking for SCADA.
Are these-
as well.
Are these all for the station?
Those are, hydrants.
Oh, those are hydrants?
Blue are hydrants.
Okay, there's only one.
Green, which is hard to see on the map, is a lift station. Even though, just for hydrant spacing, you're gonna end up with about 4 hydrants along that line.
Go ahead, Bill.
So then the water main there's got to take care of the concern with fire issues, right?
Correct. So if you're,
Any other questions, I think?
yeah, if that seems reasonable, then I'm just looking ahead of resolution included that, and we can recommend going forward with that option, but we'll look at all three again, just to make sure and make some more contacts.
Which one is the one that's $20,000 less? Well, I'm just gonna ask.
Yep. That is option 1, which is the lift station on the southwest corner.
So, in here?
South.
So, here?
Yep.
Yeah, see, I think eventually we want to have some sort of exit ramp here, an entrance ramp here. So I'd like to not encumber any of that space, personally.
I agree with Dave.
There's a billboard right in that corner too, that we're avoiding.
Because there's never going to be a ramp to this side or this quadrant, but there may be one here or here.
Correct.
Good call.
Okay. All right, someone want to make a motion to approve the proposed resolution. Where's that resolution? Is it here?
There's 2. So it's accepting, the resolution would be to accept the feasibility report as presented and set a public hearing for
April 29th.
April 23rd.
So,
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, what else you got?
That's it, thank you.
I think that's, and, Mr. Griffith.
Mr. Mayor and Council, in your package, in the additions is a right of entry agreement to provide for soil testing in the southeast quadrant of the freeway district. So it's just to allow a contractor to get on the site and bore a few holes and take some tests.
Okay. Anyone want to approve that? Make a motion to approve it?
So moved.
second.
Okay. Further discussion on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Ayes have it. That's all you had today?
Yes.
We're probably not done with the others, so we'll go with.
All right.
All right, council report, Eddie?
I have nothing to report.
Mark?
We had a Fall Fest meeting and they were cooking along as there were changes for the corner feed. There has been some talk, believe it or not, about maybe adding some family-friendly wrestling events. Where they have a stage and they have wrestling going on.
Okay.
Lions Club's what they, yeah, it's kind of thinking about that too, but, so they're actually pursuing that a little bit.
Okay.
But, otherwise that's going pretty good. That's all I have.
Good. Bill?
I don't think I got anything right now.
Okay. Elizabeth, did you add in your additions here anywhere for policy on data retention time?
I did not have the data retention.
Okay, so I'll bring that up right now. So, Mr. Griffith, you probably know these rules better than we do, but could you explain to us how the Data Practices Act works as far as retaining data and length of time for voicemail, emails, all that stuff?
Yeah, I don't have the specific timeframes, but generally what every unit of government is required to have is a retention policy. And so certain materials are held, for a given length of time. Some cities will pick 7 years because it's 1 year outside of the general statute of limitations for bringing actions. I seem to recall that we worked on one many years ago, but I don't know what the state of that is.
We've adopted the retention schedule, but I think what the mayor is referring to, there are some things that's silent on, kind of like emails. There are some businesses that say emails are temporary, you clean your email box in 90 days, otherwise we will delete them for you because, they're temporary. And so the city at this point does not have a policy on,
Defining temporary.
just temporary or those sorts of things. And so
Wait a second, doesn't the state define temporary, right? The question is whether we want to make things permanent or temporary. Is that correct?
So we're embarking on going electronic, and so we're trying to set policies on different things that we are going to retain. And so you have a retention schedule, it's silent on some things. What it says is if you adopt a policy, it then incorporates itself in the policy. And so we were talking about, now that we've digitized, whether it's email or voicemail or correspondence or, all of those media things that are not in the retention schedule.
The website, Facebook stuff.
Yeah, it's social media, it's Facebook, there's so many different things now, or different ways that we receive requests. And those are things that are not defined.
So as far as we know, we're not experts on this, but if you keep them past what's called temporary, which is 90 days, 120 days, something like that. So if you leave a voicemail in your voicemail box for more than that temporary defined period, you now have to keep it in your perpetuity.
Well, you don't have to keep anything in perpetuity, so.
Not reading the book.
No, that's why you have retention policies, because there's I suppose ordinances and things that are essentially your statutes, you probably have permanent records of. But there's very few things that you have to keep permanently. But you do have to have a system that is kind of rational. Why would you keep paper correspondence, but if email starts replacing paper correspondence, then what's the difference between the two? Is it a formal communication or is it a casual communication? Is it intended to be directed to the entire council or to a single council member? So I think what I would recommend we do with this new system, where we're converting to primarily electronic for record storage, is that we look at some of the best practices recommended by the League of Minnesota Cities. That can be our starting point. Obviously, we can tell you where you can or want to deviate, but that's often, they've studied this to great degree, and I wouldn't want to, kind of remake the wheel if we don't have to. I've gone through a couple record retention policies in my career, and it can be pretty complicated, but essentially what we can do is give you kind of the best practice and then where you can or want to deviate. But I'm not prepared to say tonight that you can delete emails in 30 days.
I come at this from two sides. From the mayor's side, I want to be practical and not load the city down with a bunch of junk we don't need. And as a citizen side, I don't want the city to delete stuff that I think should stay. So I think it's probably a good recommendation. Maybe we could get what the League of Minnesota Cities has proposed for the temporary stuff and permanent stuff. Go along that path, because we're in the process of doing the Oracle document imaging scanning. We have a new phone system that records everything. And it's just confusing now what to do with it, you know, so. Elizabeth is investigating practices, so.
Yeah, and thankfully, this is an area that many cities have addressed and league has addressed and hold seminars on it. So we're not going to be, spending hours trying to figure it out. It's laid out, and then the question is, where do you want to have a shorter or a longer period as a, as a local judgment.
Okay, so that, we'll take that, did I say?
Dave, does that encompass our emails for each council person to our tablets also?
It would, I think, yes. I don't, because I'm mayor I get so much my mayor is useless. So, anyone out there wants to get a hold of me, it's a useless thing, because people have all these, hit every mayor in the whole state, mine's flooded, but.
Each one of you, your email, the program that you're on is under Office 365. It meets the legal hold requirements. So you're on Plan 2. So each of your emails is stored up to the cloud, and the legal requirement is met.
Not an issue with those.
I'm sorry?
Not an issue with those ones.
It's not an issue with the council, with your council email address.
Okay. All right, I got nothing else, so, public works report.
We received our tractor last week. Got insurance on it today, so we should probably start using it here one of these days.
All right,
So that's all I got.
okay. City administrator report.
Our new treasurer is actively working on our treasurer's report. He feels that the next meeting will have a treasurer's report, so it's exciting. All of our new employees are doing really well, so we're excited because we're starting getting trained and into our system, so that's good news. The second thing on the city administrator's report is a question, and it has to do with an issue that came to my attention this week. So I'm going to hand out a plat, and so just to outline the policy issue, and then get direction from you to see how we want to address it. So the areas that I've highlighted, and I know it's really hard for all of you to see, I'm going to try to make it as big as I can, and so that you can follow along with us here. Okay, so we had a gentleman come to the counter, and when he came to the counter, he asked the building official what the requirements were for an accessory building for 5 acres. And the building official proceeded to tell him what the requirements were for 5 acres. And so the gentleman went back and he prepared his building permit documents. And when he came back in with his survey, the survey indicated that he did not in fact have 5 acres. He had 4.84 acres. And in our code, when we looked at the accessory building, the criteria was 1 acre or less, over 1 acre, less than 5 acres, 5 acres and more, and it kind of went on like that.
And that's through our code.
And that's throughout our code. So, he's very upset because he ordered a building based on what he was told on 5 acres. He didn't have that, so now he's 991 square feet over. So he came in and I explained, I'm sorry?
He's under, right? He's small.
No, it's building.
His building's over,
His building's
the size is up.
He's 991 square feet over what is allowed, let's say. So I did a little research because I'm like, okay, how did we get here? Because I'm not sure, the requirements. So, again, I looked at the survey. The surveyor said it was 4.84 acres. Well, when I looked at the plat, in our subdivision ordinance, many years ago, developers came in and said, when we plat public rights of way, we shouldn't be penalized for dedicating public rights of way when we're subdividing lots, so we should get credit, you know what I mean, towards lots for when we use the public right-of-way. And so in this particular case, he was told he had a 5-acre lot. He really didn't have a 5-acre lot because the road frontage in front of his house is 220 by 33, which is 0.17. And if you add 0.17 and 4.84, you now get 5 acres. But in a platted lot, you no longer own the public rights-of-way. Public rights-of-way are dedicated to the public, and you no longer own them, and it's not part of your parcel. So the reason why I tell you this, I'm going to give you an example. This plat is many years old. It's on Ferment Street. And if you look in the bottom, you'll see what the acreage is with the public right-of-way and without. So in this one, I believe it was 4.64, and with the right-of-way, it's 5.01. So if you know, and that's why I highlighted them. I'm sorry, it's 4.84 and then 5.0 with the right-of-way and 4.84 without the right-of-way. And if you look at lot 6, which is just north of there, it's 5.27 acres with the right-of-way and 4.75 acres without the right-of-way. And so you see this through platting that some lots meet the 5-acre, lot 7 is 5.22 acres, so that one's over. So now we come back to this gentleman, and he's like, well, I was told when I bought it, it was 5 acres, and now that I have my survey, I understand I have 4.84, but I just bought this building, and now it's over. So I told him that I would take the question back to the council, because for me, I couldn't approve the building permit 991 square feet over the limit of what is allowed for his parcel.
So,
his people.
yeah, just a second. So Elizabeth and I talked about this a few days ago, and what ends up happening is as you subdivide and you have to put the road in, the deductions for the road, say if you have a 40-acre piece and you divide it up into eight 5-acre lots, once you put a road in to get to the other lots, you're not going to have 5 acres. And I think the intent of what when we say 5 acres, we say 2.5 acres, whatever, I think our intent is not to nickel and dime and take away that road frontage. I think we're looking at a 5-acre piece as a 4.87 without with the road taken away. So I think that the best thing we could do to solve this is to allow I don't know whether it just be through a policy or a definition of 5-acre lots, a definition of lots.
It would be by text amendment to the chapter 7A.
Text amendment.
Yeah.
So that, because I don't want to make it just for the accessory building. It should be throughout the code. When it's a dog kennel, when it's a residential zone business, whatever, no matter what it is, if it's 2.5, 5, 10, whatever, and encumbrance come by these easements, or I don't know if these would be easements, these would be land takings from the road to get to the parcel. I think we should allow lot rounding up to the nearest half or full unit, but not over.
So, can't he file for a variance? Seeing that, he didn't create the hardship for himself. He did buy the property, it's 5 acres, and chunk of, like David said, the chunk of it's been taken away, so why can't he do it under variance?
So some roads, the lot line is in the middle of the road.
Yep.
And those people, where it's a road easement, the person owns the road to the center. If there was a plat or where the roads are actually dedicated, then that's where the subtraction comes in. So Bill, people that have the easement to the center of the road, and I don't know where I live, I don't know if I own to the center of the road or not, but I assumed I did, I don't know if I do, but I can see throughout Columbus a lot of people that probably think they have 5 acres. They technically don't have quite 5 because of that.
Well, that's what I mean, why can't it just be done in the variance?
It can be.
It can be.
Why would
You gotta go to the city to do it, you gotta go through the variance process to do that.
Oh, okay.
So the options are you do it on case by case, because you don't always know the circumstances, whether it's because of the road or not because of the road. Or you do it, you specify that it's a credit where right-of-way has been dedicated as part of a plat.
And I can't think of a reason other than the road. Can you, Elizabeth? Other than a road, I tried to think of
Well,
a
if you have a
pipeline,
pipeline run right away on it, or you had a right away,
but that's still an easement.
That's an easement, so it wouldn't, usually it's an easement, so it wouldn't be a deduction.
Right.
It's
what
just,
if it's a road easement?
if it's a road easement, the fee interest is generally kind of underneath the road and out to the center line.
Yeah.
But those are becoming more rare because most of our newer lots are platted. So we certainly have plenty of those situations where the road easement goes to the property goes to the center line. But this is something that was taken into account for the purpose of not having someone end up with less density, less lots, because we went to road dedications. It's required by state statute, actually. When you plat, it's now, you're transferring the fee interest rather than an easement.
So we gotta set up a tax amendment for this.
If that's the council's
That's
direction.
what can't you just do it with definition of lot?
It would still be a text amendment, if that's the best route. I mean, we would look at whether it's appropriate within the definition, or generally a definition describes something, but it doesn't act on that something. So, in other words, you know, you have a lot is described, but then the technical requirements for the lot is in a separate section. But it would be a simple clarifying amendment. It shouldn't be complicated.
And it's only for the purpose of defining the lot size for application to the rules in our code.
Yeah, you would say, I think the easiest way to do it to technically would be to say, when determining lot size for these purposes, you deduct the, any dedication for a road.
You can add.
Right. You add or you deduct the size of the building. So it would essentially add back the road right away.
So if somebody wanted to subdivide their lot, would this affect that at all?
No, if they decide to put in, if they had a 10, they had a 10 and they split the back 5 off or something, and the road that went to feed the back lot would now make the front 5 non-conforming. And I think technically, over the years here, as long as I've been here, we've allowed people to make non-conforming lots because of this. And we've done it by policy, and we've done it, in our policy.
We did
by
it by
ordinance.
By ordinance.
Yeah.
Right, so by ordinance, we're allowing people to subdivide and end up with lots. So if you took the turkey farm, I don't know if this is the turkey farm, but if you took the turkey farm and you added up all those lot acres, I bet you'd have an issue right there with the minimum lot size.
I did look at that one, all the 2.5 acres are in fact over 2.5 acres, so they did not take
They
into
didn't.
account the road frontage. So that one, every single one of them was over what they said it was gonna be.
And years ago, before that text amendment that said basically you can subtract out the right-of-way and not be harmed in terms of the number of lots. But before that time, 5-acre lots were 5 acres.
Okay.
It was because we went to this system of planning, and it's required by statute to be within the,
Which means a 40 ain't gonna get 8 lots.
well, and based upon the text amendment, 40 does get 8 lots.
It can't though, for the road on it.
Well, that's why that's why the ordinance was amended to say you can do these substandard, lots because we need the right of way. So the 40 still gets 8 lots because of what's already in the
But
ordinance.
they're not conforming.
They're not conforming, right?
Yeah.
But they're conforming because the ordinance amendment allows them.
I think we should have Bill write something that just would address this and allow Elizabeth to have the authority, because, she's everything by the book, to go up that, take that road frontage and add it in, and then use that for determining whether you're in or above or below the 5 acres. And that's it, not for any other thing. And for tax purposes, it's still the lot size and everything else.
One more thing. Now, we'll go back to your 40-acre average we're talking about, the downsizing lot. Now, on that lot average, would this apply, anything that we're doing here apply towards in that? So if you have your 40 acres, you subdivide, you got 8 lots, even though some of them are could be 2.5 or 3 acres, you know, if they average out to get to, for the development. So the person has like a 4 acre. Does that averaging come into effect in the way we want to rewrite this, so they could also have, my booster detail, just an example,
Yeah.
or different size building? Could they take that averaging and include that in there, or be excluded from it?
Or storage containers.
Or
No, storage
containers or
containers, see, we're opening up a little.
Residential
I'm
business.
dealing with complaints right now that deal with roosters and storage containers and whether or not they have 5 acres or they don't. So this would affect more than just subdivision.
Well, yeah, in fact,
Accessory
throughout the whole
buildings.
code, that's why I
Yeah.
brought it up. It's not just the size of the accessory building. But, no, I don't think you're gonna be able to get more than what was kind of intended in the plot. I mean, whether, so, there are streets where at one point it switches from easement to, you own to the center of the road, and the next guy up doesn't own to the center of the road. And those two are the same size lot, but the one guy would be 5 acres, the other guy wouldn't.
But I think I understand the question is, we have this PUD provision that allows you to lot average and have, say, a 2.5 acre lot within a subdivision, as long as you don't increase the total number that could be in the subdivision based on the 5 acre standard.
Right.
So I don't think we're saying, I'm not hearing you say that you want to treat a 2.5 acre
No.
lot like a 5 acre lot.
No. Well, that wouldn't happen.
But if you're, let's move that 2.5 acres up closer to the 5 acres. So in the lot averaging, let's say this guy has 4.75 acres, next guy's 5, then you go to the 2.5. So the guy has 4.75 acres now, is he gonna use a lot of, okay, now I wanna put a bigger building in here because I technically own part of, I'm saying this, we might run into an issue here, the lot averaging versus how we wanna rewrite this code for this.
So what I've heard so far from the mayor's proposal is that the only credit you get is the square foot for square foot of right-of-way dedication for roads.
In front of your house?
Yeah,
In front of your lot?
right, adjacent to your lot.
Okay.
So that someone who can't take credit for that, if it's just for that right-of-way dedication, that's the only credit we're gonna get, based on what you
Yeah,
said.
that's correct. The only time that potentially could happen, Mark, is if somebody had the 4.5, they were on a corner lot and there was a road on both sides. I don't think that's very, they
So
had,
in lot 6, that's an example. So
Yep.
the acres were 5.27. When you take the right of way away, you get 4.75.
right.
So it was a half acre in right of way.
If I bought that lot, I thought I had a 5 acre lot.
So I don't have a problem with what you want to do, Dave. I think it's a great idea. I just didn't want to get caught up in
Right.
maybe something.
Yeah, I know, I was trying to think of other things too. That
We're
would-
now a 3 acre lot, certainly has
No,
an accessory building that a 5 acre lot could have.
and Elizabeth and I were talking about that too, and if maybe that was capped at half an acre credit, or, some value that you can't go from 3 to 5. So, we'll say it was, the most credit you can take from that road frontage would be, I don't know, pick a number, and we were picking a number that was, a typical 5 acre was 220 feet times 1,200 times 33 feet or something, right?
Yeah, well, we're trying to figure out what the worst case scenario was going to
Yeah.
be.
Not the guy that had, not like lot 6, but lot 6 with the road going down his southern border. He was fully encumbered by it,
Right.
yeah.
And there's still the variance process for the more extreme case, so I don't think you have to go too far in that tolerance of how much you're gonna give back, right?
I mean, I think you could have only just do only the legal amount of road frontage, which is 220 feet,
Which would be 220 times 33,
which would cap it at .17.
0.17, which is fairly typical.
You know, see what I'm saying?
Yep, I understand. For this gentleman who wants this building, it would be faster for him to go through a variance to fix this, or wait till amendment to hear?
About the same, right?
I still have, I would have to have a hearing either way.
So the difference would be, he drafts an application for a variance, we draft a text amendment. The question is, do you want to process that as a city-initiated text amendment or as an applicant text amendment?
I'd like to fix it throughout the city, personally. What do you think, Danny?
Yes.
Well, that would be fine.
It's not 9 yet.
Yeah.
Because we have a fair amount of housekeeping right now.
Okay, so Bill, you'll draft something to that effect? Okay. We'll call it the Brown Belt rule. All right, anything else?
The next one is, there was 2 corrections to the personnel committee memo on 2/28. I had, payroll date was wrong. Originally I had it on 3/2 and it should be 3/3. And then I had a typo that quoted 17, and then I had another typo that was month to hour. So I'm just correcting the memo to its intent and what I verbally told you. And so it's on the agenda just to make those clarifications.
Okay, someone want to make a motion to approve that? No? Is that what you're doing?
Yes?
Okay,
Second.
okay, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
The last item on my agenda is for internal fund transfers and fund closures. So on page A17, we're coming to a point where we're going to have our audit starting April 16th. And so we're starting to conclude the audit work papers. In the past, we've had fund transfers in December. We're just a little bit late here in our paperwork here. So looking at the fund transfers, Fund 371 is the northeast northwest sewer and water extensions with all the Green Acres and Senior Hardship deferrals. This is the same fund transfer we had to do last year because of project shortfall, which is why in the general fund we levied $380,000 this past year. So that's the fund transfer, but it's going from the general fund to the bond fund for a shortfall. So my recommendation is that we move $300,000 from that fund, from the general fund to Fund 371. For bond fund 350, there's a shortfall of $50,000, and I'm recommending transferring $50,000 from the HRA EDA debt service fund to the refunded bond funds, which again, this is the same fund we did last year. And these are for refunding of bonds. And the last one is for the construction funds. Last year we did 3 road projects. We opened temporary funds and we self-funded it through the Blacktop Fund. So my recommendation is that we close the construction fund and the bond fund and we move those proceeds to the Blacktop Fund and continue to fund it over the next 10 years.
Any questions? Mark?
Can we do one motion or need 3?
Nope, you can do all at once.
Okay, you want to make the motion to approve?
It would be approve all transfer actions listed in the memo.
So moved.
Now you're fast today.
Jesus, something's got nothing to do. He wants out of here, I think. All right, any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, if you guys happen to take a look at the DNR letter, you guys see that in the packet? I wasn't here, but Jeff Grant signed it, the letter to the DNR.
It's out last month, or last week.
Yeah, okay, it's all signed now. Okay, calendar is as posted on there, any changes on that?
No changes, I just wanted to know for everybody that the local board of appeal and equalization has been set for April 23rd, which is a Monday. Tax statements have gone out, so I've had a few phone calls on property values. And the planning commission, both meetings, there's 2 public hearings on each meeting.
What's some people have uptaken their taxes with?
You know, a variety of different questions this year on property values.
Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Sorry.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.